Gita Shastram Midam Punyam Yapatet Prayata Puman Vishnu Padam Avapnoti Bayashokadi Vajataha. One who with a regulated mind recites with devotion this Bhagavad-Gita scripture, which is the bestower of all virtue, will attain to a holy abode such as Vaikuntha, the residence of Lord Vishnu, which is always free from the mundane qualities based on fear and lamentation. Gita Jayana Shilasya Pranamaya Parasyacha Naiva Shantihi Papani Purva Janma Kritani Cha. If one reads Bhagavad-Gita very sincerely and with all seriousness, then by the grace of the Lord, the reactions of his past misdeeds will not act upon him. Maline mochanam kungsang jalasnanam dine dine sakritam ritam snanam sangsara malanashanam. One may cleanse himself daily by taking a bath in water, but if one takes a bath even once in the sacred Ganges water of Bhagavad-Gita, for him the dirt of material life is altogether vanquished. Gita Sugita Kartavya Kimanyai Shastra Vishtarai Yasvayam Padmanabhasya Mukha Padmad Vinishrita. Because Bhagavad-Gita is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one need not read any other Vedic literature. One need only attentively and regularly hear and read Bhagavad-Gita. In the present age, people are so absorbed in mundane activities that it's not possible for them to read all the Vedic literatures. But this is not necessary. This one book, Bhagavad-Gita, will suffice, because it is the essence of all Vedic literatures, and especially because it is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bharatamrita Savasvam Vishnu Vaktrad Vinishritam Gita Gangodakam Bidva Punajamana Vidyate. By drinking the Ganges waters of the Gita, the divine quintessence of the Mahabharata, emanating from the holy lotus mouth of Lord Vishnu, one will never take rebirth in the material world again. In other words, by devotionally reciting the Gita, the cycle of birth and death is terminated. Savo Panishado Gavo Nogdha Gopalanandana Parto Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Nogdhang Gitang Ritang Mahat. All the Upanishads are like a cow, and the milker of the cow is Sri Krishna, the son of Nanda. Arjuna is the calf, the beautiful nectar of the Gita is the milk, and the fortunate devotees of fine theistic intellect are the drinkers and enjoyers of that milk. Ekam shastram devaki putra gitam, eko devo devaki putra eva, eko mantrastasya namani yani, karmapyakam tasya devasya seva. There need be only one holy scripture, the divine Gita sung by Lord Sri Krishna, only one worshipable Lord, Lord Sri Krishna, only one mantra, his holy names, and only one duty, devotional service unto that supreme worshipable Lord Sri Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So thank you for coming. So this is the second half of the section that I was assigned to do. It's all basically on one subject. So just a very quick review of what we already covered. Basically, the first thing was about our destination, the destination we should be seeking for. And that destination is the Sanatan sky, the eternal sky, not a temporary destination. Then we talked about an intimate relationship with every individual has a intimate relationship with the Lord. And that we talked about Sanatan occupation, or Srila Prabhupada talked about the Sanatana occupation, which is not fruitive activities, but they're prescribed by the Lord. Dharmam tu shakshat bhagavat pranitam. That religious principles are enacted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then the next paragraph was about the Lord, the living entities, and the Sanatan abode is the perfection of human life. If you add the Lord and his abode to your life, then your life is perfect. And then the Lord is very kind. Why is he very kind? Because he actually comes to reclaim the fallen conditioned souls. And he does this in so many different ways. His various incarnations. He sends his servants, his associates, acharyas. Also the holy name, Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, the deity, prasadam, so many things. And then Srila Prabhupada spoke about how Sanatana Dharma is not sectarian because it has no beginning and no end. And then Srila Prabhupada talked about how faith may change. You can change from a Christian to a Muslim to a Hindu to a Jew. Well, you can't, it's not so easy to change to become a Jew because they don't allow so much. But anyway, you can change your faith. But Sanatana Dharma is the eternal, essential part of the living entity, his constant companion, which can never be changed. Even when you change body, you have the same Sanatana Dharma. And then Prabhupada talked about Swarup, the Jiva's Swarup. Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishnera Nityadas, Krishnera Tatashta Shakti Beda Ped Prakash. It is the living entity's constitutional position to be an eternal servant of Krishna, because he is the marginal energy of Krishna and a manifestation simultaneously one and different from the Lord. So what is the constant companion of the living entity? It is service. Service to Lord Krishna. So rendering of service is the eternal religion of the living entity. And as Karabjan Prabhu pointed out, it's actually not just to anybody, it's actually to Lord Krishna. And then following on from serving Lord Krishna, we're actually also serving all living entities, including our family members, society, nation, the demigods. They're all satisfied actually if we just satisfy Krishna. And then another point that came up was that the Lord is the supreme enjoyer and we are his servitors. If we participate in the supreme enjoyer's eternal enjoyment, we can be happy, but not otherwise. If we try to enjoy or be happy separately or independently from Krishna, then we won't be happy. In fact, actually, there's one verse in the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam where Prahlad Maharaj says that as soon as we start looking for happiness, that's when our miseries start. So we shouldn't be looking for our own happiness. We should be trying to bring happiness to Krishna and to his devotees, his living entities. Actually, Krishna himself says that etavad jamma sappalyam dehinam iha dehishu pranaya ata diya vacha shreya acharanam sada. In that verse he says, it is the duty of every living entity to use his life, his wealth, his intelligence, and prana ata diya and his words, vacha, in the service of the welfare of everyone. So that's how we can actually be happy. So then Prabhupada introduced demigod worship and how actually demigod worship is not recommended. Especially as it's said in the 31st chapter of the 4th canto. Yatatoro mula nisechanayana tripyanti tatskanda bujo prashakaha pranoparachcha yatendriyanam tataiva savarhanam achuteja. That if you water the roots of a tree, the trunk, the branches, the twigs, and everything else is nourished. If you supply food to the stomach, then all the senses and limbs of the body are enlivened. And so in the same way, if you serve this and please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then all the demigods become satisfied. So there's no need to worship the demigods separately. And then we had some discussion, and one Mataji was asking about whether the Hare Krishna, when did the Hare Krishna mantra first arise? And she was thinking, well, maybe it's at the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 400 or 500 years ago. And I couldn't remember, but something was just in the back of my mind. And it was how in the third canto, 21st chapter, Kardama Muni met the Lord. The Lord came, actually, and he saw him face to face. And the Lord was brought on the back of Garuda. Garuda, is, as you know, is the Lord's carrier. And Srila Prabhupada explains, possibly also in the verse, that the flapping wings of Garuda vibrate the sound of the Hare Krishna, the essence of the Samaveda. So that's what I was trying to remember, but I couldn't remember enough to make any sense. So that's basically, so obviously Garuda has always been the Lord's carrier. So if his flapping wings vibrate the sound of Hare Krishna, that means the Hare Krishna has always been there. Okay, so now we come on to the next 9 paragraphs, which we'll cover tonight. If we can see, which we can just about by the mercy of this torch. So we're starting on page 19 of the introduction, the second paragraph. So I'll just read the paragraph. Well, actually, it's just a very short paragraph. It only includes one quotation of one verse. The abode of Lord Sri Krishna is described in the Bhagavad-Gita, 15th chapter, 6th verse. Na tad bahasyate suryo, na shashanko na pavakaha, yad gatva na divatante tad dharma paramam mama. That supreme abode of mine is not illuminated by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. So, and then Prabhupada says at the beginning of the next paragraph, this verse gives a description of that eternal sky. So, in the purport to this verse, let me just mark that place. It's 15:6. There's a very nice description, actually, in Prabhupada's purport of the spiritual sky. So, I thought it would be nice to cover some of that. And one other thing about this verse is that it says, those who reach it never return to this material world. And he repeats that a few times in the Bhagavad-Gita, that once you actually go back to the supreme abode of the Lord, the spiritual world, you never have to return again to this material world. Prabhupada describes it. He says the spiritual world, the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, which is known as Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan, is described here. In the spiritual sky there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire or electricity, because all the planets are self-luminous. The shining effulgence of all those planets called Vaikunthas constitute the shining sky known as the Brahmajyoti. Actually, the effulgence is emanating from the planet of Krishna, Goloka Vrindavan. But then the Mahatattva just covers it a little bit, and that's where we are. The shining effulgence is covered by the Mahatattva, the material world. As long as a living entity is in this dark material world, he is in conditional life. But as soon as he reaches the spiritual sky, by cutting through the false, perverted tree of this material world, he becomes liberated. There is no chance of his coming back here. So that's something worth bearing in mind, that once you go back, you've achieved success, then there's no chance of coming back here. So one should be, and Srila Prabhupada says, one should be captivated by this information. Are we captivated by this information about the spiritual world? He should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. So to extricate, I don't know if everybody knows that word, means to get yourself out of it, to become untangled. You get out of a certain situation. So anyway, in that purport, there's a nice description, and we should be captivated by that information. So let's continue. The last paragraph of page 19. This verse gives a description of that eternal sky. Of course, we have a material conception of the sky, and we think of it in relationship to the sun, moon, stars, and so on. But in this verse, the Lord states that in the eternal sky there is no need for the sun, nor for the moon, nor electricity or fire of any kind, because the spiritual sky is already illuminated by the Brahma-jyoti, the rays emanating from the Supreme Lord. We are trying with difficulty to reach other planets, but it's not difficult to understand the abode of the Supreme Lord. This abode is referred to as Goloka. In the Brahma Samhita, it is beautifully described. Goloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhuta. That's the verse that starts Ananda chinmaya rasa pratibhavitabis tabiya eva nija rupataya kalabihi Goloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhuto govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. And in that, Lord Brahma says, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency, who is possessed of the 64 artistic activities, along with her confidants, the Sakhis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful ras. So it's very beautiful. Actually, even the translation by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is very beautiful. Once you get to know it, sometimes it's a bit formidable, his English. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is on such a high level, he's so intelligent that his command of the English language is greater than, or was greater than probably most English people. It was just incredible. He could express himself so wonderfully. But it's a little difficult for us to understand at first. Goloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhutaha. He is the essential, the scion of the Vaikuntha world, the spiritual world. The Lord resides eternally in his abode Goloka, yet he can approach from this world. Yet he can be approached from this world, and to this end the Lord comes to manifest his real form, Satchidananda Vigraha. When he manifests his form, there is no need for our imagining what he looks like. To discourage such imaginative speculation, he descends and exhibits himself as he is, as Shyama Sundar. Unfortunately, the less intelligent deride him because he comes as one of us and plays with us as a human being. But because of this, we should not consider the Lord one of us. It is by his omnipotency that he presents himself in his real form before us and displays his pastimes, which are replicas of those pastimes found in his abode. So, Srila Krishna, in the previous paragraph, actually, I forgot to mention, he discouraged demigod worship. And there's a famous verse, many of you may know it, where it's explaining why demigod worship shouldn't be engaged in. Antavat tu palam tesham tad bhavati alpa medisham devan deva yajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. That it's by the fruits of worshipping the demigods are temporary and changeable. What is it? Temporary and 723. Just quickly look it up. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. That's it, limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. So, why worship the demigods when they can only give temporary and limited fruits or results of their worship? There's no point in doing that. Might as well just go to the top, go to Krishna, and he can supply you with everything. So actually, even Krishna, he in his pastimes, when he came to Vrindavan, Boma Vrindavan, he actually discouraged demigod worship. Can anybody give me an example where he discouraged demigod worship? Yeah, the Govardhan Leela. Yeah. So Nanda Maharaj was preparing to make to have a sacrifice on behalf of for the benefit of Indra, and Krishna he started asking questions. He says, "What is this? Is this some traditional thing, or some traditional ceremony?" And Nanda Maharaj he admitted actually, yes, it is. We're dependent on the rain for having grains, and without grains we can't live, and things like that. So Krishna persevered though. Actually, how did he what were his arguments? Can anybody tell me? When he was arguing against performing a sacrifice on behalf of Indra, or yajna.
Rain occurs everywhere.
Yes, that was one. Yeah, it falls on the ocean as well, doesn't it? And the ocean doesn't need any water, does it? But there's an interesting. He actually adopted a certain philosophy. Does anybody remember what that philosophy is?
Duty to provide this. He doesn't have to separately worship.
Yeah. But there's a particular philosophy he adopted. It's mentioned in the Krishna book. Do you know? Anybody knows what it is? It's actually an atheistic philosophy. Krishna. Yeah, karma mimamsa. That's it. Yeah, which is basically atheistic, because the karma mimamsakas, they say that actually, if you just perform your duty, the demigods are forced. They must give you the result of that. If you do it properly, they must give it to you. So there's no need of any higher being. Just do your duty, and you'll get the result anyway. So they're minimizing the importance of the demigods or even the Supreme Lord. So he adopted that philosophy and said, "No, you don't need to. We just do our duty." And in fact, we're dependent. What are we dependent on? We're dependent on Vrindavan forest, on Govardhan hill, on the cows and the brahmanas. So we should worship them. And at first, Nanda Maharaj says, "Well, okay, we'll just do this for Indra first, and then we'll do what you want to do." Krishna wouldn't have anything to do with that. He said, "No, you go straight away. It'll take a lot of time. Better use all this paraphernalia you've assembled and all this boga and things on worshipping Govardhan Hill, the brahmanas and the cows." So he did that. And then it seemed like it backfired at first, didn't it? That Indra then got angry, and he started sending torrents of rain, hail, winds, all that. But that was just an opportunity for Krishna to show, to have a wonderful pastime, lifting Govardhan Hill for 7 days. Okay, so we'll go on to the next paragraph. In the effulgent rays of the spiritual sky, there are innumerable planets floating. The Brahmajyoti emanates from the supreme abode, Krishna Loka. And the Anandamaya, Chinmaya planets, which are not material, float in those rays. The Lord says, "Natad bahasyate suryo nashashanka napavaka, yadgatvana nivatante tad dharma paramam mama." One who can approach that spiritual sky is not required to descend again to the material sky. In the material sky, even if we approach the highest planet, Brahmaloka, what to speak of the moon, we will find the same conditions of life, namely, birth, death, old age and disease. No planet in this material universe is free from these four principles. So in this paragraph, Srila Prabhupada has re-emphasized again, repeated that once you approach the spiritual sky, you're not required to come back again. Because that's an important point, because if you go to the heavenly planets, you do have to come back again, don't you? Some of you may have already been to the heavenly planets and come back again, who knows? Maybe you're demigods before. Because it's said that the demigods are queuing up to take birth here. Because in this planet, there is the opportunity to actually go to achieve the highest goal, going back home, back to Godhead. Whereas in the heavenly planets, it's very difficult. It's a difficult job. So they're queuing up to come and take birth here. And there's, I think Srila Prabhupada here in this verse is referring to one verse from the Bhagavatam spoken by Narad Muni. Tasyaiva heto prayate tako vido na labhyate yat brahmatam uparyada talabhyate dukkhavat anyata sukham kalina savatras. How does it go? Kalina savatra. Gabir, yeah, that's it. I always forget that bit. Gabir ramhasa. Yeah. So that's saying that somebody who has an intelligent person who's philosophically inclined should not endeavor for that, for either the heavenly planets, Brahmaloka or Patala, traveling from Brahmaloka, topmost planet, down to the lowest planet, Patala. And that, how does it go, the translation? That because the miseries come upon us whether we desire them or not. So therefore we should just aim for the topmost planet, going back home, back to Godhead, back to the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. Okay, the next paragraph. The living entities are traveling from one planet to another, but it is not that we can go to any planet we like merely by a mechanical arrangement. If we desire to go to other planets, there is a process for going there. This is also mentioned. Yanti deva vrata devan pitrin yanti pitri vrataha. No mechanical arrangement is necessary if we want interplanetary travel. The Gita instructs, Yanti deva vrata devan. The moon, the sun, and higher planets are called Svagaloka. There are 3 different statuses of planets: higher, middle, and lower planetary systems. The Earth belongs to the middle planetary system. Bhagavad-Gita informs us how to travel to the higher planetary systems, Devaloka, with a very simple formula: Yanti deva vrata devan. One need only worship the particular demigod of that particular planet, and in that way go to the moon, the sun, or any of the higher planetary systems. So that verse he's quoting is 925. So I'll just have a look at that. Yanti deva vrata devan, pitrin yanti pitri vrataha, bhutani yanti bhuteja, yanti madhyajino bhimam. So yanti deva vrata devan, those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Pitrin yanti pitri vrataha, those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Bhutani yanti bhuteja, those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. I've never actually, I don't know if any of you have, but I've never actually met anybody that has overtly admitted to worshipping ghosts and spirits. Have you had any experience of that, anybody? No? You've not had experience of that. But apparently it does happen. Maybe tribals and things, they believe that or maybe they even know, I don't know, that a ghost lives in a tree, so they will go and worship that tree like that. But I've never met anybody who's it. But still, it must happen. And then finally, yanti madhyajino pimam, and those who worship me will live with me. So the message is, just worship Krishna, no point in worshipping the demigods, the ancestors. all ghosts and spirits. Just worship Krishna. Okay. Next paragraph at the bottom of page 20. Yet Bhagavad-Gita does not advise us to go to any of the planets in this material world. Because even if we go to Brahmaloka, the highest planet, tasyaiva na labhyate brahmata tasyaiva heto prayate govido. So that verse again. Even if we go to Brahmaloka, the highest planet, through some sort of mechanical contrivance, by maybe traveling for 40,000 years, and who would live that long? We will still find the material inconveniences of birth, death, disease, and old age. But one who wants to approach the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, or any other planet within the spiritual sky, will not meet with these material inconveniences. Amongst all of the planets in the spiritual sky, there is one supreme planet called Goloka Vrindavan, the original planet, in the abode of the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. All of this information is given in Bhagavad-Gita, and we are given through its instruction information how to leave the material world and begin a truly blissful life in the spiritual sky. So it doesn't matter what planet you are in this cosmic manifestation, whether you're in Brahma, even Brahmaloka, Lord Brahma himself has a few troubles here and there. Like often the demigods are coming to him saying, "Oh, there's this demon causing problem," whether it's Hiranyakashipu or Hiranyaksha or Ravana or something. They're going to him and troubling him, so he has to go and sort it out. Sometimes his own mind and desires get the better of him, like when he chased after his daughter. And of course he made a big mistake when he got bewildered. He didn't realize this little boy who's just playing with his cowherd friends in the pastures of Vrindavan, and he's just holding his lunch, some sweet or something in his hand, and it's coming out through his fingers, and he says, "This is God?" He says he couldn't get his head around it. It was too much. So obviously we know what he did. He stole the calves and the cowherd boys, but then Krishna immediately replaced them. And when Lord Brahma came back, and he saw that they were all the same as before, exactly the same. Then Krishna, of course, he manifested the Vishnu forms. They were all Vishnu forms. And Lord Brahma realized his big mistake. So even Lord Brahma, who's the topmost person, got the top position in the universe, even he gets bewildered, even he has problems sometimes like that. So why take shelter of such a person? Of course, Lord Brahma is a great devotee. He's the instigator of the Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya, so we have great respect for him. So, continuing on page 21, in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, the real picture of the material world is given. It is said there, Urdvam mulam madashakam ashvatam prahu avyayam chandamsi yasya paranani yastam veda savedavit. Here the material world is described as a tree whose roots are upwards and branches are below. We have experience of a tree whose roots are upward. If one stands on the bank of a river or any reservoir of water, we can see that the trees reflected in the water are upside down. The branches go downward and the roots upward. Similarly, this material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. The material world is but a shadow of reality. In the shadow there is no reality or substantiality. But from the shadow we can understand that there are substance and reality. In the desert there is no water, but the mirage suggests that there is such a thing as water. In the material world there is no water. There is no happiness, but the real water of actual happiness is there in the spiritual world. So this paragraph is expressing the fact that this world, this cosmic manifestation, is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. The reality is there in the spiritual world, and this is just like a shadow. Like if your shadow is cast on the ground, it has your outline, but it doesn't have all the features that you have in your body. You can't see, the features of your face in a shadow. You can't see that there are eyes, there's a nose, there's a mouth, there's ears, and things like that. You can't see the detail. So that detail is missing in the material world. So it's a perverted reflection. Some of you may have have you ever been to a fairground? Maybe, I don't know, they may not have the same thing in India, I'm not sure. But in the West anyway, they have these mirrors. Have you ever seen that? Mirrors which distort your form. So you become very fat, or very tall and thin, or very square, and people enjoy seeing themselves distorted like this. But we are distorted like that, actually. Well, this is not our real form. This is a distortion, a perversion of our real form, features. And that's why we're not happy. We're incomplete. Being an incomplete, conditioned souls, we can never be happy or satisfied. Therefore, we're always looking for that satisfaction somewhere else, and traveling here and there, looking for different destinations to achieve happiness. So, Prabhupada ends the paragraph by saying, there is no happiness in this material world, but the real water of actual happiness is there in the spiritual world. So we must try to develop this intense desire. It has to become a deep desire to go back home, back to the spiritual world. And I was just reading, actually, I don't know if some of you have obtained Satyananda Swami's latest book. It's called The Living Name, and it's about becoming absorbed in the holy name. So he's saying we have to really develop this deep desire to achieve Krishna. And it's like on an ocean, you can see that if you're just on a boat, you just see the surface of the ocean. I think this may be described in Nectar of Devotion also. And you think, oh, well, there's not much to the ocean really. There's just some waves and things like that. Occasionally there's some birds, it's like seagulls, just floating on the surface of the ocean. But if you dive deep into it, there's so much life in the ocean. So much variety of life like that. So we're just like on the surface of reality. We're not seeing deep into the ocean. We'll continue. The Lord suggests that we attain the spiritual world in the following manner. Nirmana moha jita sangha dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta karmaha dvandve vimukta sukha dukkha sangha gacchanta mudha paramavyayam tat. So this is 15.5. I'll finish the paragraph and then we'll go to that verse in the 15th chapter. The Param Avyayam, or eternal kingdom, can be reached by one who is Nirmana Moha. What does this mean? We are after designations. Someone wants to become Sir. Someone wants to become Lord. Someone wants to become the president or a rich man or a king or something else. As long as we are attached to these designations, we are attached to the body, because designations belong to the body. But we are not these bodies, and realizing this is the first stage in spiritual realization. We are associated with the three modes of material nature, but we must become detached through devotional service to the Lord. If we are not attached to devotional service to the Lord, then we cannot become detached from the modes of material nature. Designations and attachments are due to our lust and desire, are wanting to lord it over the material nature. As long as we do not give up this propensity of lording it over material nature, there is no possibility of returning to the kingdom of the Supreme, the Sanatana Dharma. That eternal kingdom, which is never destroyed, can be approached by one who is not bewildered by the attractions of false material enjoyments, who is situated in the service of the Supreme Lord. One so situated can easily approach that supreme abode. So it just reminds me of one verse that Kunti Devi spoke. Janmaishvarya shruta shribir edamana manapuman naivahat adidatam vai tvama kinchana goshram. She says, my Lord, you can be easily approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who's on the path of progress, trying to improve himself through aristocratic parentage, great opulence, high education, or bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. So we have to give up attachment to all those things, aristocratic parentage, high education, opulence, and beauty, bodily beauty. And it's amazing actually how attached we are to the body looking good. It's beauty business is a big business. You don't see it maybe so much here in Vrindavan, but in England anyway, on every high street there's a beauty parlor where you can do your nails, have your nails polished and shaped and all sorts of things like that. And they make a fortune. And also hairstyling, hairdressers. Ladies, they will spend hundreds of pounds to get their hair styled, believe it or not. And even nowadays, men are also doing the same thing. But we have to forget about all those things. So let's turn to 15.5, because it's a very nice description of the spiritual world there in Prabhupada's purport. So I'll just read the translation to this verse as well, because he's saying, actually, this is the way to achieve the spiritual world. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. So this is what we've got to be: free from false prestige, not being attached to having a certain position, being free from illusion and false association. So it's one of the main qualities of a devotee not to associate with non-devotees, at least not for the purpose of for social reasons. And we should understand the eternal and give up material lust. Be freed from the dualities of happiness and distress. So we've got to be even freed from happiness, material happiness. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada actually, he says the surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride, because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the Lord of material nature. It is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Lord. Oh, I'm wrong actually. It doesn't describe the spiritual world in this one. It was the previous verse. Okay, let's... how are we doing for time? I can't see. It's 5 to 6?
Yes.
Okay, so just read the last paragraph, and then we'll have some questions, comments. In the effulgent rays of the spiritual sky, there are innumerable planets floating. Oh no, that's not it. Sorry, the last one is on page 22. Elsewhere in the Bhagavad-Gita, 8.21, it is stated, Avyaktokshara iti ityuktas tamaho paramam gatim yam prapya nanivatante tad dharma paramam mama. Again, he's saying, we don't have to nivatante. We don't have to return again. Avyakta means unmanifested. Not even all the material world is manifested before us. Our senses are so imperfect that we cannot even see all the stars within this material universe. What to speak of the stars? We can't even see round the corner, or what's in the just out of our sight. Not even all the material world is manifest before us. In the Vedic literature, we can receive more information about all the planets, and we can believe it or not believe it. All of the important planets are described in the Vedic literatures, especially Srimad Bhagavatam. And the spiritual world, which is beyond this material sky, is described as avyakta, unmanifested. One should desire and hanker after that supreme kingdom, for when one attains that kingdom, he does not have to return to this material world. So we find that's one of the subjects of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sthanam, the planetary systems. So if you read the 5th canto, it's all described there, all the planets, Jambu Dweep, and the divisions of Jambu Dweep, and then all the planets going, the 14 planetary systems. So there's no possibility of us being able to experience those for ourselves. We can't visit all those planets. I mean, we may do, like Gop Kumar, when the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he traveled from one place to another. But I think that's a special case. Maybe over many lifetimes you can, but we won't remember those many lifetimes anyway. So therefore we have to take the knowledge from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which has so much detail in the 5th canto of this cosmic creation. And then we have to develop this strong desire and hanker after that supreme kingdom, the avyakta, the unmanifested. It's unmanifest to the material senses. It's only the material senses which can't perceive, because they're material. The material cannot perceive the spiritual. So therefore, we have to take knowledge from Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, from the Vedic scriptures, from the self-realized souls. And through that knowledge we can develop this desire, this hankering to achieve the supreme abode, the kingdom of God, which is our real home. And by developing this strong desire, this overwhelming desire, actually it should be, that nothing else matters, nothing else is important, then we can go back there. And as Prabhupada said at the end of a previous paragraph, and begin a truly blissful life in the spiritual sky. So that's what we want, a truly blissful life at every moment. Actually, always increasing at every moment. So I'll finish there. If there are any comments or questions. I don't know if the... not working, no.
Just like visiting all the other planets we're seeing here,
Mm-hmm.
somebody have a desire, just like in this material world, we have desire to visit different places.
Yeah.
And spiritual planet also, somebody have some desire to visit other planets to see what's going on there. So it's possible that they can go in different planets, then go back home, back to body.
Yes, it is described actually in the Bhagavatam that great sages, they elevate to Brahma Loka ultimately, and then if they're still there when the final annihilation occurs, because at that point Lord Brahma goes back, at least yeah, they can go with Brahma at that point. Yeah, so it is possible. Yeah. I understand. Any other comments or points anybody like to make? I can't exactly see who's here, but yeah. Anything else? Anybody like to? No. Yes, Prabhu.
One thing yesterday we were talking about the Mahamantra,
Yeah.
is written on the way we can see that Krishna descends one every day of Brahma,
Mm-hmm.
and in a Kali Dwapar Yuga, in the Dwapar Yuga, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descends following Kali Yuga.
Mm-hmm.
So that continuous cycle is going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Never beginning, never ending.
Yeah.
So that mantra is already there.
Yeah, yeah.
So there is
That's a good point. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the Vedas are eternal, aren't they? They're not. They don't come
it is
into.
somewhere in the scriptures that mantra is there, like starting with the Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
So
Well,
then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave it the other way around for congregation chanting.
no, but actually in the Kali, what's it called? Santara Upanishad. Yeah, it's the same way that we do it now.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna first,
Right.
and so that's part of the Upanishads. But yeah, there is a tradition in some places to chant Rama first rather than Krishna.
People in South India,
Yeah, yeah, but yeah. Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
just like Prabhupada explained, the Omkara
Yeah.
is similar as chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Yeah.
So before, I remember my mother used to chant that Omkara, Omkara. Then I used to listen, why she's chanting so many times Omkara, Omkara.
Mm-hmm.
And now I understand that this Omkara is the same as Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Yeah. Prabhupada says in the Bhagavatam that Om. Yeah, and in the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita also, isn't it, said that actually Hare Krishna contains Om. Okay, let's finish there.
Hare Krishna.
Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura.